Elijah asks 300 students at his school to name their favorite type of pet. The results are shown in the pie chart below. How many students chose frog as their favorite pet? So the first thing we need to do is realize we're talking about frog, and how much was frog? 13%. So we're looking for 13% of how much? 300, right? And now what would we do from here? We need to make a proportion, right? The proportion we learned, which is part over whole equals percent over 100, okay? So where does 13% go? Where the percent is. Where does of 300 go? Is that the part or a whole? Whole. That is a whole, so that's going to go down here, okay? Now, guys, you must set up a proportion, okay? Please get in the habit of setting up the proportion, okay? Next, you need to go from what you know to what you don't know, okay? And put an arrow. That's going to help you know whether you're multiplying or dividing, because as we're getting more into this, you're going to get confused. Do the same thing down here. How do I get from 100 to 300? Times 3. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And what's 13 times 3? 39. So now, what is the answer to this question? 39 students chose frog as their favorite pet. Okay? What I mean is, don't just leave the proportion finished like that. Box your answer or write down 39 students or something like that. That way we can tell your answer really clearly. Okay? Okay. Questions from last night's homework? There should be one question. I got some emails about one. Nobody had anything? Okay, well, I'm going to go over number 5. Okay? Number 5 says you were supposed to multiply by 0.63, but guys, when you multiply by 0.63, you get 4.725. How come that's not the answer? It doesn't say 4.725. Why? Because it's money. And because it's money, then you need only 2 places after the decimal, which is where they got $4.73, $4.73, okay? But what I was saying is I got a few emails, they thought there was a mistake on the key, because this piece right here was not actually on the key. It should have been, but it wasn't, okay? Anything else from that homework? All right, then we're going to move on. Okay, today we're continuing with percent and whole, okay? We're going to use the same formula that we used yesterday. We're just going to be given different parts of the proportions this time. It does not change how you solve the problem. So guys, what goes here? The part. What goes down here? The whole. What goes here? Percent. And what goes here? 100, okay? Alright, let's find the first one. And notice what's in bold, or all caps. You must set up a proportion, alright? I promise you, when we get to, we've got some stuff next week, like your tests and things coming. For partial credit, if you don't have a proportion set up, you will not get partial credit. I'm just letting you know. It doesn't matter what you do, even if it's a simple decimal error. If you don't have a proportion, you won't get points. Okay, percent proportion. Okay? Okay, look at this first one. 75 is 15% of what number? Now, personally, when I see a phrase like that with no context at all, these are a little bit harder. What I mean is, the first one with the pets, right? There's context. You knew that there was a total of 300 pets, right? You knew the percent. You could see, but there's no context here. So one thing you might try to help you is to break down the sentence into parts, okay? 15 is. That's one part. So underline just that piece, okay? Then let's put a box around our percent. 15%. That's a whole separate part. Understand? And then, of what number? So it's like I took one sentence and I chunked it into 3 separate parts. Why 3 separate parts? Well, because I've got 3 unknowns in my proportion, right? Because this number is always 100, yes? But you have 3 different unknowns. So I'm going to break my sentence into 3 parts. guess what? Those three parts have a spot. We just got to figure out where they go, right? So let's do it down here. Which one is the easiest to fill out? The percent, of course, because 15% is going to go here. Okay? So now you have to figure out, well, what's the part and what's the whole? Again, with no context, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I think we talked about some words yesterday that might help you. Do you remember? What words? Of is one of them, and what else? And is, right? Which one is the is? That's the part, right? Is, right? And the of is your whole, right? Like if I said 8 kids out of 20 made an A on the BLA, right? Of 20 would be my whole, okay? So let's start here. 75 is, where does that go? On the part. Of what number? So what am I going to put right here? Do I know what this is? No. So I'm either going to put a question mark here, or I'm going to put an X, because it's a variable, and I'm going to solve for that. It's an unknown. Or you can put a box, something that shows that's what you're looking for. Okay? All right. Now, like we talked about yesterday, go from what you know to what you don't know. Do you know a way to get from 15 to 75?
Yes,
Times 5. That's right. Times 5. What you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So then what's 100 times 5? 500. So let's first write our answer down here. What is the answer?
75 over 100.
What's the answer?
50 over 100.
It's just 500. The question says 75 is 15% of what number? Guys, the question mark right there, what number? 500. That is the answer. Do not put 75 over 500 because that's a fraction. The answer is just 500, okay? Over here, we're telling you also, what were you looking for? We knew 15%. We knew the part was 75, so we were looking for the whole in this case, and the whole was 500. Okay? Let's do another one. Tell me the first chunk. 9 is. Good. Next chunk.
36%.
36%. And then, of what number? So this one is exactly the same, yes? Okay, so set up your proportion. Where does 9 go? On the part, on the top. Where's 36 go? On top of 100. Of what number? I don't know. So again, we know 36%. We know the part. We're looking for the whole. Okay? If we go from what we know to what we don't know, and remember yesterday there was also multiple ways to solve them, right? So I've only just been solving it one way. Okay? Remember that you could also possibly look this way. But in this case, do you think it's easier to go from 100 to 36 or from 36 to 9?
36 to 9.
Why? Because it's easy, right? What's the answer? 4. Divide by 4. Don't just say 4, guys. It's divide by 4. Make sure you put the action in there, okay? It's to divide by 4. What you do to the top, you do to the bottom, and 100 divided by 4 would be 25. So what's the answer? Just 25. How are you feeling about that? Okay, how about y'all want to try the next 2?
Yeah.
Okay, just do the next 2. Number 3 and number 4, and then we're going to check, okay? Pause the video. Okay, if I chunk it, 7 is what percent of 10? So I set up my proportion, 7 goes here. This time I'm looking for the percent, right? And of 10 goes here. So it's the percent that I'm looking for. I know the part, I know the whole. So what do you do from here? Did you go from what you know to what you don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this time you're saying, how do I get from 10 to 100? Times 10, do you see, instead of divide like we did before. And then 7 times 10 would be 70. So what is the answer?
70%.
70%. Don't forget the percent sign on that. If you just put 70, you might miss it, okay? Next one, 8 is what percent of 20? 8 is what percent of 20? You see how it speeds up? Go from what you know to what you don't know. How do you get from 20 to 100? Times 5. So times 5 would be 40%. 40% is what I'm looking for. Okay? Are we good? Okay, let's do a word problem. We're going to skip 5 and move over here to 6. Okay? It says Peyton, excuse me, Peyton spent 60% of her money to buy a new television. If the television cost $300, how much money did she have? Okay, so we all know 60 goes there because it's percent, right? The only question here is you have to figure out, is 300 the part or is 300 the whole? Raise your hand if you think 300 is the part. Raise your hand if you think 300 is the whole. Okay, who wants to defend your answer? You feel confident. Pravesh, why do you think it's the whole? Can you defend it?
Yeah.
Bridget?
I think 300 is the whole, because if the television costs 300, that's the whole and
Because that's the whole cost, okay? And who thought it was the part? And you can defend why you thought it was the part. Tell me why you think, Gabby, why is it the part? Right, so she's got some money in her pocket. She's only spending 60% of it on the TV. So does it matter really what the TV costs?
No.
Not really, but is she spending all of her money is the key.
No.
No, she's not spending all of her money, and so even though she bought this TV, that's not all of the money that she has. So what is 300?
The part.
The part. That's why I wanted to do this one together, okay? So what you're looking for is really how much money did she have to start with, okay? A couple of ways you can do this, right? You could simplify. Y'all want to go between? What do y'all want to do?
60 and 300.
Okay, how many? 60 to 300, how many? Times 5, go this way. Times 5, do you guys agree with that? Yes. And what you do to the top, you do the bottom, so 100 times 5?
500.
500. So what is the answer to the question? $500. Now, I want you to pause here as well because let's just pretend for a second, don't write this down because it's not going to be correct. Let's pretend you put it in the wrong place, okay? So let's just say you had your unknown up here and you put 300 down here, 60, and you did this, correct? So then that means you would have done 100 times 3, and then 60 times 3 would be 180, and you got an answer, and so you think you're right, and you move on with your life, right? Stop for a second, though, and think about what's happening in the problem. It said she spent 60% of her money to buy a new TV. The TV cost $300, so how much money did she have? You're saying she had $180. Well, if she only had $180, could she have bought the TV? You see what I'm saying? You see how that's not reasonable? You should always check with percent problems until you become very, very comfortable with these. Check to see if your answer is reasonable. You see what I'm saying? If it because sometimes you can make a decimal error, you can put something in the wrong place, and you think it's right because we did great math right here, right? We solved our proportion correctly, bless you, but we set it up wrong. If this was a quiz, I can tell you that obviously this would be the right answer, this would be the wrong answer, but because you set up a proportion and solved it correctly, then we would give you some partial credit, okay?
But is the function that it depends on if it's going to be worth or
It depends. We usually on tests we do half.
I thought it was like just random.
No, we usually do give back half. Okay, how about you guys try number 5 on your own, okay? For the next one, I wrote out a little statement. I like to call this my is of statement, meaning I took the wordy word problem and broke it down so that it looks like this kind up here, because it's easier, right? We're looking for 90 is 75% of what? Does that help you to know whether you're looking for the part or the whole? Yeah, because 90 is 75%, we're looking for the whole, right? I forget to build this in sometimes. Okay, so now, do you see an easy way to go within or between? Hello? No, right? So I would probably simplify this. What is 75 hundredths?
3/4.
3/4. Now, do you see a way to go? Yeah, how do you get from 3 to 90? Times, guys, don't just say 30. Times 30. So then you do the same thing to the bottom. Times 30, which would be 120. Let's put it back into our context. We're saying that 90 songs makes up 75% of his library. So then would 120 be a reasonable number? Because does 90 sound like 75% of 120? Yeah. Okay, so what's the answer? 120 songs. And put a box around it or circle it or something so I can tell that that's your answer, okay? Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to play lottery, which we played before. Your homework is the test review, even though it says what is not finished, we're going to finish it because we have time. Thank you.
It's not possible.
Well, my thing turned red.
Oh.